So I read this at a bachelorette party. I want you to picture the scene. We're on the beach. Some people are in the water. The water was freezing. Delawareans. How do you do it? Some people are listening to music, and I'm reading this. To be fair, the bride herself gave it to me. She and one other of my closest friends have been begging me to read this since we were freshmen in college, which was 8 years ago. Why did I put it off so long? I am a fantasy girly / look at the cover. I absolutely hate it when there's real people on the cover. I think it just made it look really cheesy. But then I read the first 100 pages on the beach, and it was my friend's signed copy, so I wasn't gonna take it with me. And then there was no time because we had to get on a pink party bus that was pirate themed, which, by the way, is my preferred method of travel now. I came home, I bought the book, last copy in Barnes & Noble, and oh my gosh, it is so good. I'm not a huge contemporary romance person. I do use them as palette cleansers. And this was sort of following the vibes. It's more teenage-ish than I've read in a while, so it was very cute and all the fuzzy good feelings until it wasn't. Here's what you need to know if you're like me and you spent the past 11 years that this thing has been published, not reading it. There's a girl, her name is Samantha. Her mother is a politician, very cold, calculating, distant mother figure. As far as we know, the father has just abandoned the family and she has one older sister. Her mom is very critical of their next door neighbors, a family called the Garretts that have approximately 1,000 children. But Samantha, who is in a very calm and quiet world, tends to watch this family from the roof of her bedroom. Until one night, one of the many brothers in the family comes up and talks to her. With her mom busy with a political campaign and her older sister off at some sort of something for the summer, it doesn't really matter, she starts to become more intrigued with this family, particularly the guy, Jase. But this is not just a cutesy romance because something goes horribly wrong. So horribly wrong. And it's more than just oh, it's a miscommunication trope like always. No, this is big. If you don't want to be spoiled, off you go. Just know that this is more than your usual teen YA contemporary romance situation. Let's get into the review. First of all, I don't really want to talk that much about most of the first half of the book. We had all of your kind of cute basic stuff where her life starts to get a little more messy because she's spending time around the Garretts and she's finding that she actually enjoys being surrounded by all these people and the Garrett kids like her and it's great. And the kids in this book were written very well. They all have very distinct personalities, which was really, really fun. It reminded me a lot of the kids in Lady Midnight is Somewhere, but the Lady Midnight trilogy, that section of the Cassandra Clare universe with all the kids of Julian and everyone. And that was where we sort of got our comedic relief of the book. There were some kind of side quest situations where Jase was wondering if Samantha is embarrassed about him because she's really rich and he's not, and then she and her best friend had a falling out. But that's not what we need to talk about. We need to talk about the end. When she falls asleep coming home from one of her mother's political campaign whatevers, her mother is driving after she's been drinking and they hit a huge bump. Samantha is kind of asleep in the back and she's kind of oh, what happened? Clay and her mom. Clay, who is a slimy politician who her mother is now dating and it gives very weird vibes. The two of them get out and check, and then her mom comes back oh my gosh, and Clay's just drive, just go, and her mom's oh, it's nothing, go back to sleep. And then the next morning we find out that Jase's dad got hit and run, and it doesn't take her very long to put the pieces together, but at that point, what do you do? Because she had only really known Jase for a couple months. They had been dating 3 months tops, at the most, even though she definitely is in love with him, but then it's her mom. And she has this horrible secret, and Clay has kind of gotten to her being you turn your mom in, first of all, jail time, probably, maybe at least. And then also everything that she has, very nice house, very nice school, all of that stuff goes away. There will not be any more political career. But she has this horrible secret around the guy she's in love with, and it becomes very clear to her that she can't spend time around him anymore and keep her mother's secret, and so she breaks up with him because she feels she can't tell him, she can't betray her mom, basically. And then we find out that Mr. Garrett doesn't have insurance and he's gonna be in the hospital for so long and everything is horrible. And on top of all of that, Mrs. Garrett is pregnant with their 9th child, I think. One of the things I really liked about this book was those sort of those underlying themes about family, because we're dealing with Samantha, who is trying to figure out, is she going to just blindly be loyal to her mom, even though it's kind of like the wrong thing to do in this scenario. And like, is she being naive for choosing this partner she's only had for a couple months? And then Jase, on the other hand, like, they're going through this terrible like family time, family expenses, on top of his mom being pregnant. And he had kind of mentioned like a really tough spot for him, because he's like, I can't imagine not having all of the siblings that I have, but at the same time, the two oldest kids have already gone through college, and now his parents are like, well, we can't pay for yours because they've already run out of money. And he's like, I feel so selfish, but if they hadn't had so many kids, like, would there have been more for me? And I thought those were like very interesting questions about like family loyalty and stuff that put the book on a much higher plane than other YA contemporaries. Finally, Samantha tells her friend, who we didn't even talk about that friend. So her theoretically bestie and the bestie's brother, I don't remember any of these people's names. Brother has been on drugs more and more intensely as the years have gone past, and Samantha and this guy used to be very close friends. As they're taking like a prep SAT thing, Samantha finds out that her best friend has been cheating off of that brother for years to get into a good school. That's like a different side note, and it never really gets resolved, I don't think. I don't remember that ever coming to like fight between them that got resolved. But she tells this guy, and they sort of repair their friendship, and he's like, you have to tell Jase this, like, he does not understand why you broke up with him. And so she does, like, she actually manages to get it out, and then she has to go and confront her mom and tell her what she did. And obviously, like, the mom is just like, first of all, she's at her wit's end from hiding all this information and dealing with this super slimy boyfriend of hers. And then, like, obviously at best her career is over, at worst she's going to jail, and her daughter is the one who spilled the beans. I can see how that would have been difficult. But she looks at her and she's like, tell me that you think I did the wrong thing. And her mother can't answer her. And this is after an entire book of her mother's character seeming to go further and further off of true north. Her mom completely withdraws from politics and says she needs to focus on her family. Obviously, Clay, that boyfriend, is gone. But I think overall, 'twas for the best, because her mom was basically becoming like more and more radicalized within her party to like appeal to voters. And it was just to the point where she wasn't even her mom anymore, and she didn't have any of the same like values and characteristics, at least in the public eye, that she had had before. We find out Mr. Garrett is going to be okay, and then also on top of everything, the mom is now hiring out Mr. Garrett's company for construction, and I believe she helped pay some of the hospital bills and stuff. So it was really intense, and the Garretts having to forgive this woman who had like basically trash talked them for years, and then turn around and keep a secret for this neighbor. Like, the mom eventually moved, which had to happen. There was no way they could live peacefully next to one another. Basically, that's where the book ends. But luckily, Jase and Samantha are together. I was so emotionally invested in this book. I enjoyed it so much, especially for the characters being younger than my usual. But it looks like there's two, you know how The Kiss Quotient is and Get a Life, Chloe Brown, where it's not a series, but there's companion novels with the siblings. It appears that there are two more like this. So we'll see, because I haven't heard like glowing reviews the way I've heard about this one, and it deserved glowing reviews. I'd probably say like, this is hard, because like a 10 out of 10 is like a crazy amazing fantasy, so it's hard to put this at like an 8 out of 10, but it's still like, I was so hooked. I think I'm just gonna go 7 out of 10 for this one, but like with a little extra sparkle on top of it, because I felt like this was a truly captivating young adult contemporary. If you have any other suggestions like that for like books to read in between the bigger series, let me know in the comments. I would love to investigate. My name's Katelyn. Thanks for watching. Bye! I did get a haircut. Thanks for noticing.